Welcome to Senior Stay or Go TV. Today we are honored to have Tom Rice with us. Tom Rice is a true World War II veteran and part of the greatest generation. He's also a hometown hero here in Coronado, where he was born and raised. And he was a staff sergeant in the 101st Airborne in the U.S. Army during World War II. And he parachuted into Normandy, about 2 kilometers behind the German fortification on Utah Beach in Normandy, France. So, Tom, we are so thrilled to be here today with you. I know that you were wounded a number of times, you've had a number of surgeries, and you just keep plugging along. You've received a bronze medal, you received 2 Purple Hearts, you've received combat infantry badges, you've received notoriety from the French government. You really have had an enormous and a wonderful career. And after your military career, then you had 44 years in the Sweetwater School District as an educator as well.
Yeah.
So, wow. I don't think I've done half that much in my life, and it's
You weren't parachuting in Normandy.
You'll grow into it.
yeah, I'll grow into it someday, maybe, right?
It's truly an honor to have you here. We call you Sarge or Tom, whatever you would like. Sarge, is that okay?
Sure.
So we're behind us is the home you were born and raised in.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about your upbringing in Coronado.
Well, I was born here in Coronado. They didn't have a hospital, so I had to go to San Diego. I won't tell that funny one that I told you before. But my father bought this double lot, very early, 1919.
Wow.
And as the family was transferred around, I had a brother, Joseph. He died of double pneumonia in 1932. And
So he was very young.
Yeah, he was 6 and I was 10.
Oh, wow.
So I always practiced my fisticuffs with a cut on him, and so he got a little punching around every now and then. But the front house was not built until 1938. And there's a lot of artifacts around here. My father built a big pond here with rocks that he got from Tijuana. Behind me is some rock culture. You can see it probably from where you are, and it's been built up and kept up that way. The kitchen stove, the kitchen sink was stolen. The toilet was stolen. A number of items that were usable and workable were stolen from Kearny Mesa when they tore down the buildings there. So evidently they were free for grabbing. And the house was made of redwood, and another fellow and I replaced the roof about 30 years ago. So it's been a small house right here, and then a larger house my mother built in 1938.
I understand you were quite the wealthy catching gophers, is that?
Oh yeah, I was probably one of the richest kids in the city because I caught gophers, and I was on the track team, and as I captured the gophers and took them to the fire station, banged on the pole, and the fireman slid down and gave it to him, and then he threw them in the trash. I found that I was losing money because some of the kids were raiding my traps. So after the fireman took my gopher, he threw it in the trash, and I went around and got him again and turned him in the second time. But that was working pretty well and got my budget back up. But finally the whole thing collapsed when the fireman cut one leg off, and you can't get 25 cents on a 3-legged gopher.
So just for a point of reference, high school graduating class of 1940.
Yeah.
And how many kids?
And what?
How many kids in the graduating class?
60.
Oh, so okay.
Yeah.
Pretty substantial.
And the student body was 300 then.
Wow.
And there was one black family in Coronado, and all the girls were beauties. Everybody on the football field had to go out for track, had to go out for basketball, because that's all we had. Just a particular number of individuals that were pretty well trained in athletics. The coach was Harold Niedermeyer. And,
I went to high school with Anita Meyer.
oh yeah. We traveled around Southern California and running track meets, and one of them was the Huntington Beach Relays. I ran the mile in the Huntington Beach Relays and got second,
Wow.
but I broke the school record. But they wouldn't give me the record because in order to hold it, you have to have 3 watches on it. And the coach only had 1 watch, so that was it.
No electronic timers in
Yeah,
those days.
no, it's all hand stuff, you know. And, it worked that way. But from there, I went on to San Diego State College, and had 2 years, and then from there, I enlisted or joined or whatever else it might be. I wasn't drafted.
Okay.
Because my serial number is 1916-4859.
Wow, you
The
remember
first
that.
number is either a 1 or a 3. If it's a 3, you've been drafted. If it's a 1, you volunteered.
Okay.
So
And what year was that?
that was 1942. After 2 years of college, and for the most guy, there was a lot of depletion of men around. So it's time to go. And the community here took care of us kids. We weren't a gang. We were a crowd.
And did you go with a bunch of buddies, or did you go by yourself?
Oh, I went over by myself in the San Diego post office and was sworn in there by a second lieutenant, and he read article number 69, you're in the Army now. And to go home, you've got 24 hours to go home, get your life squared away, and be back here.
Wow.
And then from there, I took 8 guys to San Pedro. We got clothing that didn't fit. We threw our civilian clothes away. I wore glasses then. I threw my glasses away, so they never knew I wore glasses.
Okay.
And I was going to get caught with glasses. So I volunteered directly into 501st Parachute Infantry Regiment. And after taking IQ exams at 2 o'clock in the morning, I knew what they were looking for, the radio operators, and I knew a little bit of Morse code. So I marked all my answers wrong because I didn't want to carry a 60-pound piece of equipment that was classified as radio, because that's a significant target for the enemy.
Well, you were wise even then.
Yeah. So I played games with the Army and maneuvered pretty much as to where I wanted to go. I did the same thing, and they wanted machine guns. We got to Camp Toccoa, Georgia. We were standing around doing nothing, hands in our pockets and leaning on something. So we were called to attention real quick, and the first thing we did was to climb a 36-foot ladder up to a C-47 nacelle part of a body. And there are 2 doors on. One we went in, the other one we went out. And they strapped a harness on us one at a time and put us in the doorway and gave us 1, 2, 3, out you go.
Oh, wow.
And if you didn't, then they kicked you out. If you still refused, then down you went, and you were put in Company W, and you got rid of you right away. The colonel, our regimental colonel, wanted athletes, and he wanted soldiers, and he wanted guys that had some college. So I just happened to fit that. Most of our officers were West Pointers, and this is an odd bunch of individuals because we came from all over the United States, and our officers were real keen in that we had a Philip Gage Jr., who was directly related to General Gage of the United States, or the English Revolutionary Group that came in.
Oh, wow.
So he was a gallant officer. He was Sterling Silver man, and he was he on the Normandy invasion, he tried to take over a German machine gun position, and he got his hand shot off. And he always complained to me that he never did contribute anything. So we had to correct him. So he was a good man that related right to the enlisted men. Like some of the officers, there was a sparkling line of non-communication between enlisted and the officers. So you just obeyed. You stand up, sit up, shut up, and do what you're supposed to do. So we trained and trained and trained in Camp Toccoa,
And where was that?
northeast corner of Georgia.
Okay.
The weather was terrible in the winter because I'd arrived there the 27th of November.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Coming from Southern California, that
Oh
was
yeah,
not fun.
yeah. There you got it. Living in the salubrious climate here of Southern California and going to that area where you're breathing fumes from soft coal, and that didn't fit well with me at all. So they were looking for machine gunners, and they had a target of 3 by 3 inches on the diagonal, and you had 9 shots, and you had to put 3 shots in each one of those targets, those squares. I put them all in the framework because I didn't want to be carrying a machine gun, because that is a high priority for an enemy target. So I used those techniques, and I worked my way around there.
Okay, so you're working your way around, and then what?
Somehow you ended up being deployed.
Yeah, well, I was already, we went through the Tennessee maneuvers. They made a motion picture on that. In fact, they made 5 motion pictures of the 501 and 101st. One is The Longest Day. You've probably seen that one. Mm-hmm. And the Band of Brothers were on the tail end of that one. The 101st Airborne Division was a Wisconsin infantry regiment that was tagged for airborne duty. Now, it was known that the Germans had 3,000 in a regiment. We only had 2,000. So in the 101st Airborne Division, there was the 506 Parachute Infantry Regiment, the 502 Parachute Regiment, and that's the way they were. We're still undermanned regarding the German complement. So the 501 was attached to the 101st. So that put us even. Now we got 3,000 in all 3 of our regiments, as the Germans had 3,000. So we didn't know that. That was kept quiet. And ultimately, after a couple of campaigns, we found out about it from them.